Hey, everybody. Welcome to All Set for Sunday, a podcast for busy and distracted Catholics to be a little more prepared for Sunday Mass. Your name is Jeff Traylor. And
your name is Scott Williams.
Yeah.
Podcast Scott.
Podcast Scott.
That's what they call him.
The old PC. They call me PS. Podcast Scott.
That's one word.
PCS.
All right. Guys, it's going to be a great one. I hope everybody's buckled in.
Our guest today is Father James Brockmeier. How are you, Father?
Doing great. How about you?
Super duper. Thanks for asking.
Father James, one of these days, I'm going to remember that we're recording with you on a specific day, and I'm going to bring my glasses so that we can really show people why the world used to mistake us for one another. But it is, when I had the same glasses as Father James, it was like a stark, it was just funny how often people would either call me Father or whoa. Yeah, except you still got that baby face. Mine's all old and withered at this point. So
I think you look handsome.
Oh, thank you.
Father James, where are you? I see white walls. Are you at the Catholic Center?
I am at the Catholic Center, yes.
More of eggshell than white.
Yeah.
But the Archdiocese of Indianapolis Catholic Center.
And you have a new role there. What do you do?
I am the director of the Office of Worship.
What exactly is
the Catholic Center?
What's that mean?
It means that right now it means that in the next few weeks I'm going to be working furiously to make sure that everything's organized for the liturgies at NCYC.
Hey,
they celebrate liturgy at that?
They do a few times.
Just a yeah. Is like these just like medium-sized ones? You do like a couple Sunday masses in the
Well, there's one over in Lucas Oil Stadium.
Ever heard of it? Our Lady of Lucas Oil, I believe is what it's called.
Is that what it's called? The Monday every 2 years?
I don't know, but we should start that.
No, probably not. We should probably go more toward like St. Luke, like that's almost there, you know?
St. Lucas
Stadium.
Oil.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
St. Lucas Oil.
It's San Lucas.
Yes.
Yes.
The executive director of the Office of Worship said so.
Yeah.
I did not.
It's recorded. It's recorded, and we will clip that and post it for sure. We'll tag the USCCB.
Just kidding.
We will be all set. No, we wouldn't do that.
No.
But yes, that will be a big mass. It's fun when you start to have to order hosts in the tens of thousands for one mass.
Like, and they call and say, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've hosted NCYC a few times, so they usually know why we're calling.
Yeah.
Have you how many hosts do you have left over after something like that? Is this part of your notes you got with your
I did the math, and every priest that distributes communion needs to consume 10.1 hosts after distributing communion. And then we will consume all the hosts.
Why
now you're probably wondering, how do you consume 10.1? If you don't, you consume 11. So
I was going to say they shouldn't be able to consume 10.1 because they shouldn't be breaking the host, but
well, they won't be. Yeah, but just the reality of getting communion to a stadium is you have to send more out than you need, and so in a parish setting, you would put those in the tabernacle. But at a conference setting, we either take them back to tabernacles around the city to be used at Mass, or we ask some priests to consume hosts to lower that number. That's the plan.
I've always thought it was interesting, the whole concept of like when we do, when the hosts are put back in the tabernacle, we genuflect, or if there's a Eucharistic procession, right? There's a big, I've always thought because in that scenario, or we saw pictures from World Youth Day and stuff, there's often just some sort of very large tub that is filled with containers that have hose. If you got to transport those to parishes around the city, it's just, little do people know Jesus is literally just driving past them on the road. Or
yeah, the tubs got a lot of bad press
Youth
Day, so I would just like to say that our way of doing it is nicer than tubs.
Got it. So
Yeah.
you guys have large precious metal.
Gold-plated tubs.
Well, we have precious metal containers that go inside of a wooden box. That's
Got
a
it.
very nice wooden box.
Nice.
And
Great.
I can direct people to the germ that says that nice wood things are worthy, except for, like, I wouldn't use a wood bowl, but
Yeah.
it's a nice wooden box that precious metal ciboria are going to go into. So
Scott loves when we reference the germ on the show. It's his favorite.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a start!
we can have just a whole show on the germ sometime. You just want to get it all set for the germ.
Oh man, I want to do bonus episodes like that where we bring like 2 or 3 of our guests in, but I want to find 2 or 3 who are like I want to find 2 or 3 who are going to fight about the germ. Like that's the content we all need.
Yeah.
Is you guys arguing about the germ.
That's what the church needs.
Yes.
Yeah. More priests publicly arguing about the general instruction for the Roman Missal.
I think this is gold.
There's no precious metal.
No, it's beat me too. Lob that up for you. All right. Are we ready for the 2-minute drill if we're not going to do the germ fight?
Yeah. Germ fight. Oh, we'll save that for the doctors, am I right? Okay. Don't get us into vaccines. All right. 30th Sunday in ordinary time. All right.
Father Brockmeier seriously reconsider
every time he's on the show.
He's
like, why am I friends with these people?
Oh my gosh, my hand is moving toward the leave button on accident.
What was that, Christina? You needed some. Okay. There's an emergency. All right. So our first reading comes from Exodus, and it is about the proper treatment of widows, orphans, and aliens. I mean, now I know
I want to get out ahead of this, not those kind of aliens.
Yes, obviously like people from another land.
Yes.
Yeah. But I would say like those aliens too, we should probably not oppress or molest. So either way, I was trying to figure out like the summary of this because it's a very clear message in here. And so what I first wrote was like, be kind, like just be kind to people. Like these like when people come and they're from a foreign land or they're widowed or orphaned or they've been like they're on the outskirts of society, be kind to these people and like treat them well. And then I wrote, don't be jerks, because it kind of has that tone to it of like, come on, like mind your manners. When there's company is coming, we should treat them well.
Preach.
Thank you. No, that's his job.
Oh.
You mistook us for each other because we look like that's what it is. The responsorial psalm, I love you, Lord, my strength.
The germ says he preaches. Got it.
It does. Or the deacon if there's one present. So that's Psalm 18, 2-3, or 2-3, 3-4, 47, 51. I don't know why I listed all those out. Huh?
What class is that?
Oh, it's a meh.
Okay.
It's mid. Isn't that what we discussed on the last episode? It's mid. No cap. All right. So I love you, Lord, my strength. The second reading then, so we started out with aliens, widows, and orphans. In the second reading, we get into models and imitators. And in this first letter in 1 Thessalonians here, Paul is sharing like, listen, you guys have seen us. You've seen how we're traveling around. You've seen what we're doing. Be like us and be imitators of us. Be models of what a life with joy in the Holy Spirit should be. Spread this, share this, show this off to people. Because if you put that out there, that's going to prepare you for the coming of Jesus. And then our gospel is Matthew 22, 34-40. When the Pharisee heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together, and one of them, a scholar of the law, tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment is in the law is the greatest?" Tested him by asking, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" He said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on those 2 commandments."
All right. That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it fits with models, impersonators, aliens, widows, orphans,
Basically the same thing.
basically.
Yeah.
So aliens, Father.
Father, yes, Father James, Area 51. What
21.
did Jeff get anything wrong?
No.
Sweet. All right. I've been waiting. Like, either you've really improved or they just stopped listening.
I 100% the stop listening.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
It's that
We'll
one.
just remove that.
Well, there was
moving forward.
there was a take that you had during the first reading that I'm going to challenge in my section.
Great.
Well,
But
I'm
but
impressed.
I wouldn't say that that's getting something wrong. That's like you read something into the first reading that
Is
I'm going to
incorrect.
talk about.
Oh,
Yeah. In that scenario, you should respond and be like, yes, of course he did. Let's talk about it. But
Yeah.
I just appreciate you've been on this podcast, I don't know, how many times do you think? A dozen times?
Several.
Yeah, like
friend of the podcast.
Yes, for sure. I consider you a friend of the podcast. But this is maybe the first time you haven't interrupted my 2-minute drill.
He did.
Oh, he
Whoa.
did. You're right.
Oh, what? Oh, I did at the very beginning.
Yes.
I said I want to get ahead of this, not those aliens.
Thank you.
Because usually you'll jump right in and start going, and
That's my favorite.
and you can't hold back where I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a note here to ask you about that Mountain Dew that you got. All right. What are you preaching on this weekend? And are you at the cathedral? Do you say mass at the cathedral every weekend?
I say mass at the cathedral and I say mass at Butler University.
Oh, that's right.
So I'll be preaching both those places this weekend.
Go Dogs.
Blue 42.
Blue 40. That's right.
But what I am going to be preaching about this weekend is the difference in the kind of invitation and call in the first reading and in the gospel. So Jeff earlier said that he would summarize the first reading as be kind to aliens, widows, orphans. I'm not sure that it goes that far. It says, don't molest or oppress them. Don't wrong widows and orphans. Don't lend money as an extortioner to the poor. It's a list of things that you shouldn't do, right? And so it leaves me thinking that maybe I could sit back and ignore and hate the widows, the orphans, the oppressed, the alien in our midst, and I would still be following the prescriptions of that law.
So
right?
my don't be a jerk take was probably a better
direct reading of this reading from Exodus.
Or don't openly be a jerk.
Yeah. And, Jesus says that he came not to replace, but to fulfill the law. And there are so many places where Jesus' demand on us is so much greater than the do not prescriptions of the law, right? Like we could read this first reading and think, oh man, this is really calling us to something. Don't oppress, don't extort, don't do these things. But the call to love is so much greater a demand than a call to don't oppress, right? Like how does this call to love color how we would approach the same list of people that we see in the first reading from Exodus? It's like, well, if we're talking about the as they're referred to in Exodus, the alien in our midst, immigrants, refugees, we're not just called to put up with or to avoid oppressing. No, we are called to love them. And love is something that's far more active. Love is something that seeks out the other, that seeks another's good, that is willing to sacrifice. And so our call, and the Catholic social teaching of the Church has as one of its main themes solidarity. And Pope Francis just wrote a letter on human fraternity.
What was it called?
Oh,
sorry, I didn't mean that to trip you up. I
no,
thought...
it's okay. I unfortunately don't have the answer off the top of my head.
I'll look it up. You keep talking.
And something that's at the heart of Pope Francis's vision for the way that we would approach the human community, that we would approach anyone, is seeking that radical solidarity, seeking love as as our first instinct, as our first desire in regards to what community looks between us and people that we're not used to in our communities, between us and people that maybe are enemies in our communities, between us and between nations, between people who would otherwise be in conflict. We are called to try to replace our hatred, or even if it's just our apathy, with the love that Christ calls us to, which, like I said, is sacrificial and goes out of its way to seek the good of the other.
I can't remember if we talked about this in our men's group, Jeff, or if we talked about it on the podcast, but what, like, as humans, do we have a capacity to love, or is our ability to love infinite? Like, I know, like if I have another child, like my capacity to love is going to increase, but I also feel like there's a capacity to the amount of energy that one human can put into the world. And I take the word love to be very strong. And
Sure.
for me to love every person I encounter, like how do we do that in the biblical sense versus like what I think of love as like loving my family and my close community of friends and things like that? Because, Facebook allows me to keep up with friends from high school and things like that, very surface level, interactions, but like true relationships and true community and fraternity, there's a lot of like that goes down another level, and it takes more energy and output because you have to give to be able to like receive love and to give love.
Yeah. I think one thing that can be helpful to think about to start is that we have this difference between the natural virtues and the theological virtues. And the theological virtues are faith, hope, and love, which is to say that if we are going to have faith in our life, if we're going to have hope in our life, if we're going to have love in our life, we're going to find the Lord as the source of these virtues. Right? We need the Lord to love as he commands us to. We need the Lord to have faith. We need the grace of the Lord to have hope in our lives. And so it is certainly the case that our capacity to love is limited. But I would argue that the capacity of the saints to love is probably far greater than mine. And that such a big part of growing in the Christian life is the Lord opening our hearts and forming our hearts to love more and more and more. Something that I find myself talking about a lot as a priest is that we come up against the limits of our love a lot, whether that be when we experience like just anger in response to someone in our life that usually we desire to love, when we experience impatience with family, with friends, and whenever we come up against that limit, it is an opportunity to ask the Lord to open our hearts more to his grace that wants to help us to love more. And so I would say that first look at the situation of your life. Are there people who, instead of loving, you approach with impatience or animosity, or to the worst degree, oppression or malice? Are there? I see the look on your face, Jeff. Think about those people first, and it's like, how can I begin to approach those relationships with love, and how can I how can I learn through the relationships closest to me how to love in the face of impatience or anger or frustration, hatred, so that as you go out into the world and you continue to encounter people that perhaps you might be impatient with or angry at for one reason or another, you are used to deciding to love rather than be impatient or angry.
So this is the second part of this part, or these two great commandments, is more of like the theological virtue of love versus, loving our God with all of our heart, minds, and souls.
Oh, I think that they're connected.
They're connected. Okay, yeah. Different.
Love of God and love of neighbor. I think they're the same word for a reason. In Greek there are multiple words for love. There is the agape that we have toward God. There is
eros,
philia,
sort of desirous love. There's the philia, but I would say that Christian love has an element of all of those. The Lord is calling us to love our neighbor. I think that the Lord is calling us to love our neighbor as a friend. He's calling us to desire that kind of love for our neighbor, to be motivated in our love for our neighbor, and to find in our hearts some abundant, overflowing love, that agape for our neighbor. And it is a high bar, and I think that's really what I think that this comparison between the first reading and the gospel gets us to, is like this command to love is a command over and above just this, don't mess with, don't oppress. It's like, oh, well, the people that the Lord are calling me to love are these people who perhaps it's the most difficult to love.
Okay. This just reminded me, it's off track, somewhat off track, but
that's right.
This is why they call Philadelphia the city of brotherly love, is because the word Philadelphia actually means, it's like from the Greek, it actually means brotherly love.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's true. I'm swearing I'm not making it up. I know you both.
Not philia.
Yeah. And Delphia is like brother, or Delphi or something like that. So anyway,
and Arizona.
Arizona.
No.
It is hot there. Desire, love.
Yeah, I get what. Yeah. All right. Well,
that was a good segue to dumb questions.
Yes, it was. Oh, it's just going to get dumber. All right, Father, here's my question for you. First dumb question.
Okay.
Do aliens have souls?
Oh my gosh.
You can quote the germ again if you want.
Yeah, this isn't the answer is not in the germ for this one. General instruction of the Roman Missal, if anyone was been wondering. But do aliens have souls? I think that a widely accepted answer to this, because, and I'm not willing to stake my life and reputation on this answer, just to be very clear. But I think that a widely accepted answer is that if aliens exist and they seem to have if they're intelligent,
you already ruined it for me. I was hoping to just get you to give an answer so I could be like, so you're saying they exist.
I'm sorry. It's such a complicated question.
I mean, isn't it one of those things where like in our belief of like the world and creation and our faith, like if aliens exist, then they were created by God. And
yes,
then
Yes, but the
Yeah.
soul question, in our tradition, the intelligence is connected to soul. And so if there are aliens who are because we tend not to think that we're just giant computers. That's not just what's going on in us. That intellect is a gift that's tied to our physicality, but it's also is a spiritual gift. That if they had intellect, it would suggest that they had souls, but I'm not willing to give you the direct answer you want about that.
Did you know that the moon there's a bishop assigned to the moon?
what?
The Diocese of
know that.
Orlando. Yeah.
Because that's where Cape Canaveral is?
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Well, there are people sometimes there, so they need a bishop.
Does that mean there's a bishop assigned to Mars, or like we will be assigning a bishop to Mars?
If someone lands there, we would do it.
That's
I would
awesome.
have loved to have been a part of that like conversation where
Well, guess we're gonna need a bishop of the moon.
So, but it is a bishop who's already bishop of somewhere else because there's not much work,
yeah.
I know, but like, how about it saying like I am responsible for the souls of the Diocese of Orlando, caveat, and the moon.
And the moon. Well, the moon is just part of the Diocese of Orlando, I guess.
Oh man, Orlando, just Disney and and the moon. So both
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right.
Both are out of
My
this
second
world.
dumb question. I bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I made a note in my phone during Mass this weekend, but it was for the podcast. Yeah.
Mm.
It was during the responsorial psalm.
Well, that
This
doesn't count.
isn't necessarily a dumb question. What?
You were just writing "This is a banger" in your notes app.
Yeah.
I actually wrote fake banger in my notes app. AS4S. That's what it says in my notes app. And then, okay, I don't know if there's even a dumb question here. I just want to discuss this. I got tricked at our responsorial psalm this weekend because the tune that they started to play was "All the Ends of the Earth Have Seen the Power of God," right? Like I think that's a banger. That's when people know it's all the end. Father can sing it better than I can. But instead they sang the words, "The Lord comes to the earth to rule with justice," or to rule the earth with justice. And I was like, wait, what? I was like all thrown off and messed up.
Is Andy
Discuss.
Mojica down the road?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you holler at Andy?
He is right over there.
Andy's a listener of the podcast. Hello, Andy. And he has asked about coming on before. One of these days we're going to bring him and you on for the same podcast, and we're going to discuss liturgical music. And man, am I going to have some questions. But and the good news is I know that Andy also has feelings about that.
There's actually it's a pretty common practice in the church that new words would be written to establish melodies. There's this long tradition in the church of hymnody, where there are these set established tunes, melodies that everyone knows. And a good way to introduce a new song is to give new words to a melody that everyone can already sing. And so there are a lot of...
I'm a big fan.
If you look in a hymnal, I don't have one on my desk. Sometimes I do. If you look in a hymnal at the bottom, especially if it's an older song, look at the bottom and there will be 4 numbers next to each other. It might be like 12.12.12.12. And that's a reference to the melody that it is in the hymnody tradition.
Interesting.
Did you try to say
I'm not willing to...
It was an accident.
You just accidentally said hymnody.
Hymnody.
That great job answering a question that I didn't actually even ask, where I was just like, that's funny, isn't it? But yeah, it faked me out. It was a banger fake out, and I had to type that in my phone during Mass. So, all right. We were talking about your assignment at the cathedral. You're the pastor of the cathedral.
Yes.
This is another non-question question, I think. It's an interesting dynamic you have because like you are the
dumb statements.
You're not, I guess dumb statements. That's just Jeff. So I take that back. You're not actually the pastor of the cathedral. You are the rector of the cathedral.
Yes.
Corrector. Okay. Corrector. Rector.
Rector.
But hymnody. But so you are the rector of like the most known church in the diocese, right? Like it is like the main church. People know about it. They exist. Most everybody, if you're Catholic and active in the sacraments in the church, you've probably been to the cathedral at some point. Like that's there. Except like on the other side, at least for our cathedral, and I don't know if this is the case for others as well, you also might have like the smallest parish population. Like the nature of at least being downtown, the location, everything is like you don't have a ton of parishioners, right? Like
we're mighty, small but mighty.
Sorry, I didn't say they weren't great. You're all great, but it's just it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm just wondering like how that is for you. Like how do you kind of play that? Because like there's also maybe more sacraments celebrated in that church than there are in most because of all it being the main the seat of the archbishop and everything. But anyway,
every cathedral kind of has two roles. Every cathedral is both a parish community and the seat of the bishop, right? So and that's why in our diocese the role of being the rector of the cathedral has for a while been tied to the job that I do here at the Catholic Center for the Archdiocese, being the director of worship, because we host so many of the liturgies for the whole archdiocese and the things that I work closely on coordinating. And so there are definitely times when this is an archdiocesan liturgy and the bishop is celebrating, and this is a cathedral liturgy and parish of Saints Peter and Paul Cathedral liturgy, and I'm celebrating, not sitting in the bishop's chair. So I would, we kind of go back and forth between modes. That's how I'd describe it.
Okay, sorry.
I was just going to say, have you ever sat in this chair?
No.
Never?
No.
He offered, I was there for a confirmation recently, and he was letting the kids take pictures in this chair.
Oh, nice.
That was funny. And I desperately wanted, Father Tim was there because it was for my daughter's confirmation. And I desperately wanted, when he invited people to come up and take pictures, I was like, Father, you should go up there and get a picture where you're just like, ah. Anyway, sorry.
Did he do it?
No, he did not.
No. Okay, so private space travel is kind of a thing. Like there's space, like SpaceX, and I mean, it's not unrealistic.
Yeah.
That like consumerism, commercial space travel will become a thing. Tourist space travel, right? Do you think we can raise enough money to have mass on the moon? How much would it cost? And who should come?
Well, I think it should be the Bishop of Orlando, to be honest.
Would you do it?
Would I do it?
I think
if someone was like,
I'm going to assume a bishop is too old for space travel. Maybe that's wrong of me, but
I think it should probably be
a permission from the Bishop of Orlando to do it. I'm assuming.
I think it should be a Space Force chaplain.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have chaplain.
I bet that exists.
But this is in the commercial side, not the Space Force or the tourist side.
So would it be like somebody from what? No, you'd have. This is interesting.
Could it?
This is going to be our question for the next 8 weeks.
I don't think it would be a very good use of personnel resources.
Would you eat it?
What? Sorry, what'd you say?
I think it would be a rough use of priest personnel resources to say, you know what, you go with this group of space flight consumers to have mass on the moon. I'm not. Yeah.
Are you saying that you would decline that opportunity? If somebody said, Father James, we're going to the moon, but it happens to be on a Sunday, and we need to celebrate Mass, will you come? Would you throw yourself on that grenade?
No.
Okay.
Personally, no.
You would deny those people the celebration of the Eucharist.
The way the priesthood works is we're responsible for like a a set of things, and none of my responsibilities include the moon.
You would say, here is a link to my streaming mass and a prayer for spiritual communion.
Okay, Jeff got you some of that Mountain Dew that had booze in it. Have you tried it yet?
I didn't know I didn't do this. Oh man.
Yeah, because of my love for Baja Blast, got me some Baja Blast hard seltzers. And I have had some.
Are they good?
And they are good.
That's awesome.
They're exact, but you know, they're not. If you love, non-trashy alcohol options, it's probably not for you.
But
if you don't care about your reputation or your taste buds, go for it.
Your innards, anything. That's great.
But that falls within your priest responsibilities. Got it.
No, that was
hard seltzer. Not do hard seltzer, yes. Eucharist on the moon, no. Got it.
Would I go to the moon if it meant that I got to have Baja Blast hard seltzer? There's another question. Probably.
Oh man, Jeff and I have not gone through the love language exercises together, but I would guess that he has the gift of gift giving.
I do love to get gifts for people. So
he really does.
That's why I got you, and I know people. I got you Mountain Dew hard seltzer, and I got Scott Healy's.
Yes, he did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Except Scott's getting old, and so he's like, my feet hurt.
No, they made me cramp.
Oh, they make him cramp.
Yeah. Gotta eat a banana. All right. That's it for today, folks. We're out of time. Father Brockmeier, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a joy and a blast. It's been a Baja blast.
It's been a wild episode, I think.
It really has.
It's awesome.
Bye.
Bye.